I was raised by Eagle Scouts. Both my grandfathers were Eagle Scouts. My dad wasn't an Eagle Scout. He was a Life Scout, and he's kind of sour about that. But my uncle was an Eagle Scout. And family friends, they were all in the Scouts. So I was raised by this culture, basically, and I had never been able to do it until recently. And so when one of our family friends said, hey, they're starting a girl troop with our troop, maybe you should join it, I jumped at the chance. So we went ice fishing on Trillium Lake near Mount Hood, and it was on Trillium Lake. So you walk out there and they say it's 1.5 miles, but it's a half a mile to the start of the 1.5 miles. So it's 2 miles up and down hills in snowshoes. And so you get there and you walk out onto the middle of the lake, because there's about 6 inches of ice, then an inch of sleet, then about 4 inches of snow. And so it feels like you're on normal ground, but you're in the middle of Trillium Lake on Mount Hood. And so we get there and we use augers to drill through the snow, sleet, and ice. We get through and you just stick your lines in because the fish will come to you. They haven't eaten anything in months. And so it's easy pickings. And if you're in the middle of the lake, it's easy. And we just sat there, socially distanced, and just talked and just watched our lines.
If I wasn't involved in scouting, in my youth, I wouldn't be where I was today. And I want to make sure that the youth today have the same opportunities that I had, because let's be honest, when our kids grow up, the job market is going to be very slim and very specialized and very nichey. And with scouting, I feel that teaches the youth so many life skills that they can apply to so many different jobs that who knows what that's going to look like in 10 years, but at least they'll have the training. The leadership is huge. I've always been a leader in all of my positions I've held at all the companies. It's crazy, like I get hired and then all of a sudden I'm a supervisor, then a manager, then a director, and so on, right? And I believe in the program so much. I didn't go to college. I thought I could apply my life skills and make it through life, and I did. And I feel I just want to return that to the youth. So again, they can potentially be super successful if school's not for them, or a certain profession's not for them, but they can learn the leadership and just learn the life skills.
Service projects are a big part of the OA, and that we really needed to do a lot more of that. And because of COVID, being unable to really meet in person. We did a couple of meetings in the summer, but it was still a lot of fear and uncertainty. So I knew that service projects were also going to help youth advance and a good excuse to get out. So we really worked hard on getting those going, and they've been very successful. And it's really what part of the Order of the Arrow is about, and what Scouts is about. So not only giving back to BSA, but also giving back to the community. We just felt it was a really good fit, and we needed to work really hard on making that a big part of our chapter. We've done a lot of park cleanup, just because it's outside and parks are big, so we can definitely do social distancing and keep with the the buddy system. And we have worked with the Portland Parks and Rec, and they've been phenomenal, giving us projects whenever and wherever we need. And also Oswego Pioneer Cemetery, they really work with a lot of the troops down in Lake Oswego, and so we did a cleanup there, and that was really fun. Our next one for April is going to be another Portland Parks and Rec, doing some trails. I think we're going to do that at Washington Park. So we're trying to also kind of reach, our district is pretty long, from St. Helens all the way down to Lake Oswego. So we're trying to kind of hit the different areas of our district to make sure that it's easier for youth to participate in the projects. I think what especially the chapter chief is doing is phenomenal. I think he has amazing leadership skills, and so I pretty much go by what he wants our chapter to look like, because it is youth-led.
But we just kept on building and started the new tradition of the monthly service projects that got a lot of turnout. They've been very popular. We've been at our cap for all of the ones that we've done, and it's just been, I think it's just been really great. It's nice to see us slowly building back, slowly getting our footing.
Our goal is to continue with the service projects and to just make those very solid. And if we still see a bigger need, then we'll probably maybe add an additional service project a month, and just to work with communities, organizations that might need something like food bank drive. But just to really kind of grow that, and to make sure that we see that our chapter meetings and other activities are growing and the youth are getting what they need out of it.
We built connections and relationships there in that small little bit of time, because not only with people, but with nature, itself. Coming from the city, you don't get a chance to shoot BB guns and ride the horses. And even though I take my son fishing, he's caught more salmon than I have. It's still fun to be around other kids that want to learn and have the same questions you do. I think for us, it helped our pack, which was a brand new, never scouted before, a bunch of kids, to see the kids that have been doing it for a couple years, how they move and operate. Even though they're still kids, they still wild out and love to have fun, and they jump all over the place. When it came down to really responding to leadership, responding to the plan that was set for the day, they got to see how the other kids move and how that helped them have more fun. Because, like, again, if you follow the path, you follow the plan, you not only learn what you need to learn for advancement, because you do a little advancement work at the camp, but you have way more fun. You get to every place you need to on time, then you don't miss on any activities and any instructions. So them seeing other kids, like during the nightly campfire meetings, that was great for them, because they learn new chants and new songs with these other children that have been doing it for years. So they just listen, and they kind of take note, and they're like, okay, they build their own cadence to it, and they have fun as they see all the other kids fall in line. So I think the kids, the children teaching one another was the most powerful thing.
Because it's great for the kids, man. It's great for the kids to be out there and be together and doing things, outdoor things, especially when activities are kind of set like that. It's a whole different than just like going out and camping and not knowing really what to do,
It's really good for kids, and it's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a lot of things there, like you'll never get bored, honestly.
Right, you'll never get bored.
I spent 35 years in the classroom, which isn't necessarily leadership, but certainly working with adolescents, and there are ways to act and ways not to act in order to be influential and effective. But I also made a choice to be active outside of school in local politics, and I spent nearly 23 years on the local Longview City Council and about 10 and a half years as mayor of this community. And I don't think I would have been able to do any of that if it hadn't been for the work that I did as a kid in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. And you just get put into positions of leadership and how to resolve conflicts. And so it takes a certain amount of skill and a lot of patience and a willingness to talk things out, work things out. Compromise is important as well. So those have been important for me in the avocations that I've undertaken as an adult.
I'm Kayleen Dethridge, Board Chair of the Cascade Pacific Council of BSA. Welcome to this evening's Whitney M. Young Jr. Service Awards event, honoring Ben Berry and Sho Dozono. In addition to celebrating Ben and Sho, we will also share an update from our Executive Director, Matt DeVore, highlighting the successes of our first class of female Eagle Scouts and sharing our organization's progress and commitment to our diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. Before we begin, I invite you to please join me in acknowledging the original people of our land. What we now call Portland, Oregon and Multnomah County were the traditional lands of the Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Tumwater, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Wasco, Molalla, Cowlitz, and Watlala bands of the Chinook, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. Today, people from these bands have become part of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, as well as the Chinook Nation and Cowlitz Nation in Washington State. Acknowledging the original people of this land is a powerful and simple practice that demonstrates our respect by making Indigenous peoples' history and culture visible. It's also a small step we can choose to take along the path toward reconciliation and repair. The practice of acknowledging the original people of our area does several important things. It recognizes the ancestors that were here before us and counters the doctrine of discovery. It makes the Indigenous people who are part of our community more visible. It recognizes tribal people as their own sovereign nations. It creates space for us to reflect on the ways non-natives currently inhabit the land, dominate resource consumption, and exist within a still active process of colonization. It creates space to build relationships with Indigenous people, communities, and with the land. And it inspires ongoing action and the power of building relationships. Thank you for taking a moment to join me in the Indigenous practice of honoring the land and open spaces with reverence. I would also like to take a moment to thank our virtual hosts. Perhaps you are joining us this evening courtesy of an invite shared from them directly to you. Our thanks to Pete Nickerson, Dave Wyden, Bob Yokoyama, Jay Wilt, Bob Dernetti, Xiaoyin Chin Dennis, and Marty Zare. We are also grateful for our partnership with Pacific Power Foundation. Their investment has helped the Council partner with the consulting team of Construct the Present to begin our diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. And I'll share a little more about that work shortly. Before I talk about our Council's efforts to become more equitable by increasing diversity and inclusion across CPC, I want to tell you one of my own scouting stories, the one that led me to recognize how important it was that we open scouting's programs up to all of our youth. In 2010, I became the Associate Advisor to Venture Crew 127. Crew 127 at that time was made up almost entirely of girls. These girls were outdoor rock stars, and they were highly motivated to advance. Nearly all of them had brothers who were either in Troop or Crew 127 and had achieved the rank of Eagle, as well as being members of Order of the Arrow, Scouting's honor society. At the 2010 Camporee, these girls spent the afternoon helping me to make tokens for the boys who would be tapped out to join the Order of the Arrow that evening at campfire. The girls shared how much they would like to become members of the OA, and they asked why that path was not open to them. They were frustrated. They felt marginalized by Scouting because they could not access these opportunities to achieve. I had no good answers to their questions, and that weekend, a seed was planted in my mind. 2 years later, we were at the 2012 Camporee with the crew. Most of those girls were now juniors or seniors in high school. Several of them had achieved all of the rank advancement available in venturing. And that weekend, they had been asked to serve as the MCs of the Camporee campfire. They ended the evening by sharing a David Letterman-style top 10 list. Theirs was the top 10 reasons you know you're in a co-ed venturing crew. The reasons were funny. Things like everybody goes to the bathroom with a buddy, and the 11th essential, glitter lotion. The crowd loved it. After the campfire, my husband and I, and the boys in our crew, went off to the OA tap-out ceremony. When we returned to the campsite, the girls approached us and said they had an 11th reason that you know you're in a co-ed venturing crew. And that was when, after campfire, the boys and the adults go to the OA ceremony and the girls go back to camp alone. It was a gut punch, and one that we needed. My husband was chosen to receive Vigil honor that year, and he almost turned it down because he felt that it would be wrong to be honored by an order who did not consider half the population as worthy to become members. From that weekend forward, we became passionate advocates for the inclusion of girls into all of Scouting's programs, and we've not looked back. Early in my journey, all of this led me to pay attention and notice who was Scouting for and who was it neglecting. And my passion for eliminating barriers and disparity in our movement was born. I deeply believe that Scouting has something to offer every man, woman, and child, regardless of race, gender, identity, or creed. And I am thrilled to scout in a council that has embraced this truth and is committed to giving every young person the opportunity that my girls in Crew 127 couldn't access 10 years ago. Through DE&I work, our council hopes to expand our mission throughout the Pacific Northwest by becoming better prepared to serve youth of all genders, ethnicity, or orientation. We want to be intentional about finding new ways to reach those out of our current line of vision. We want to empower our members by showing them new paths for navigating their lives now and in the future. We are choosing to focus on helping the next generation to be self-reliant, appreciative of people from all backgrounds, and prepared to function as an integral and impactful part of the world. 2 years ago, our board of directors formed a DE&I task force of 6 members, co-chaired by board members Xiaoyan Chen Dennis and Brian Wilson. I have had the privilege of serving on the task force, and I want to offer a huge thank you to all of our members, and especially to Xiaoyan and Brian, who continue to lead our efforts with wisdom and grace. At this time, I'm delighted to introduce Ben Berry, one of this evening's award recipients and a fellow task force member. Join me in listening to why Ben feels DE&I work is critical and has a positive effect on the current and future success of our scouting programs.
Diversity, inclusion, and equity are very important to me because it means that the organization, the group, the people around me aren't trying to eliminate who I am. They're embracing who I am. They're listening to what I have to say. I don't feel like I'm invisible. I feel like I'm doing something that's meaningful. And so the same thing goes with CPC. If we are embracing diversity, inclusion, and equity, then we're really telling people it's a big tent. We want all the ideas to come to the table. We want you to come to the table. We want to make sure that you feel welcomed. In fact, we often will go to where we are invited, but we will return to where we feel welcomed. Most people of color know that saying, but it's something that everyone can aspire to and hear because it's how people feel that makes the difference when they are feeling like they're being included.
In April of 2020, the DE&I Task Force surveyed board and staff members as part of our first equity audit. Now we are nearing closure of phase 2 of a 3-phase DEI work plan. The first 3 phases of work are focused on CPC employees. Our longer-term commitment is to provide DE&I learning and development opportunities to youth and volunteer leaders. Additionally, our national organization is honoring their commitment to DE&I by increasing the diversity amongst leadership and thinking carefully about how we can incorporate an equity lens into all decision-making about the future of scouting. As a result of our DEI work with Construct the Present, our Scout executive is benefiting from one-on-one coaching. The executive leadership team is participating in facilitated learning. The CPC staff have participated in the first of 2 all-staff trainings, and an internal staff equity team has been developed. This team is currently working on drafting an equity statement for our council. In CPC, we are committed to serving youth, families, and staff of all backgrounds, and we are already fulfilling that commitment. In 2018, we welcomed kinder to 5th grade girls into Cub Scouts, and in 2019, we began including girls from the 6th to 12th grade in our Scouts BSA troops. This February, for the first time in BSA's 110-year history, nearly 1,000 young women from across the nation were honored with achieving Scouting's highest rank, Eagle Scout. And 9 of those newly minted Eagle Scouts live within the 18 counties of CPC's Northwest Oregon and Southwest Washington service area. And congratulations to our entire local class of 362 CPC Eagle Scouts. We know that you will continue to achieve great things in all of your futures. After enjoying this brief reel celebrating our 9 CPC female Eagle Scouts, we'll hear from our Scout executive, Matt DeVore, with some exciting updates and council highlights. I look forward to rejoining you shortly as we shift to recognizing tonight's award recipients, Ben and Sho.
At my first camp out, we were talking about how I had the possibility to get Eagle, and I was kind of iffy at first, but as soon as my Scoutmaster planted that seed in my brain, I went straight for it. I set deadlines that I had to meet to the day, and I made them all. Throughout scouting, I never really felt like I had to do anything. It was always that I wanted to, so I always had fun and everything. If it wasn't a super fun project or anything that we were doing within the Scouts, I told myself it was for other people, so it didn't matter because it was helping others.
And it's really fun to do all the different activities and earn different merit badges, and at the end of the day, you feel really accomplished by what you've done. and when camping is more fun than I thought it was going to be. One of my favorite trips that we went on was the backpacking with the llamas because llamas were my favorite animal because they're cute. And I got to pet the llamas. They were soft. They didn't spit on me, so that's good.
I have loved everything I've learned, all the people that I've met, all the opportunities that I've had, just the ability to go out into the forest with a bunch of people and hang out. Like, there's so many different things that don't even have to do with becoming an Eagle Scout. Like, you are just there to learn and there to grow. And becoming an Eagle Scout is just another bonus add-on of all the things that you're going to get out of being able to be in the program. So during my Eagle board, I was actually asked what was one of the biggest things that I learned through scouting, and perseverance was my very first answer because in general, scouting is hard because you have to just keep going. And with the addition of the world situation right now, it didn't make it any easier, and yet we're all still here and we're all still going for it, and we're all still standing out here in the rain and still learning how to do things. And so I think for me, that perseverance was the biggest thing that I learned.
Thank you for joining us tonight to help recognize Ben and Show. It is my pleasure to share some brief reflections. I want to start, however, by thanking and recognizing Kayleen Dethridge, who recently became our board chair, succeeding Mark Gans. Mark provided incredible leadership of our board over the past 5 years. Thank you so much, Mark. Kayleen brings many, many talents along with passion and belief. She's our first female board chair in the 105-year history of scouting in Greater Portland. We salute and thank you, Kayleen. I would be remiss if I didn't also give a quick shout out to our second highest ranking volunteer, Kathleen Jordan. Kathleen serves on our board in the position of Council Commissioner, and I'm ecstatic to have the chance to work with you as well. About 11 years ago, our board lacked diversity and was comprised of 15 white males. We've made tremendous progress since then, and our current 20-person board includes 6 women and 6 people representing ethnic diversity. We are very, very blessed to have a highly talented, engaged, and diverse board. Our board's investment in diversity is amazing, and I thank them for their belief in the vision to serve girls along with boys and to invest significant funds in capital projects to build bunkhouses and cabins to serve outdoor school students from all across Oregon. We will continue to seek ways to expand our reach and to collaborate with other community organizations to help make a significant, positive impact on children. While you have already heard a bit about our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Task Force and journey, I want to give a quick shout out to Alexis Braley James from our DEI consulting firm, Construct the Present. Alexis was recently selected to receive the 40 Under 40 Award from the Portland Business Journal. Congratulations, Alexis. As part of this DEI journey, I've been personally blessed to have Paul Brown coaching me. Our monthly sessions together are deep, meaningful, and impactful. The more I learn about DEI, the more I realize that I am on a lifelong journey of learning. These conversations have been very helpful to retain a sense of what really matters on this planet. And to me, that is people. I've been blessed to work for more than 34 years in my scouting career, serving in 6 different states, including Oregon. Even after all these years, I remain deeply passionate about scouting's mission and values, including the concept of service above self and do a good turn daily. With all the strife and all the challenges in our country, I cannot help but reflect on the 12 points of the Scout Law. I won't cite all 12, but I would mention one. A scout is kind. If more people were simply just kind to each other, the world would be a much better place. Our event tonight recognizes two incredibly kind servant leaders in Ben and Sho. I'm so very blessed to know them, and I'm simply humbled by their love of our community and their service to others. With the COVID pandemic and numerous other tragedies, not limited to, but including the death of George Floyd, 2020 will be remembered as an historic year filled with emotion and tragedy. As I was trying to come to grips with the George Floyd tragedy personally, I wasn't quite sure how to feel. I was shocked and I was in disbelief. Not soon after, I read a letter that Ben Berry had written to his daughter Whitney to help her cope with the tragedy. Thanks again for joining us this evening. Next up is a video of Ben reading that very letter to his daughter Whitney.
When George Floyd was killed and protests were everywhere, I have 4 kids, but one of my children, Whitney, was very, very upset and stressed. And she felt like the whole world was ending. All the multiple protests, the things that were on the news. And so I wanted to be able to communicate to her my thoughts as to what was going on and put it in context of my own life. Dear Whitney, this Friday I will turn 68 years old, but when I was 6 to 9 years old and living in Los Angeles, my father would take me to our black barbershop to get my hair cut. As I sat waiting for my haircut, I watched TV news coverage of black people marching in the streets in the South expressing their civil rights, all the while being beaten by police, bitten by police dogs, and knocked down by the harsh spray of fire truck hoses. Our people were led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and they were marching and protesting about the injustices of racism, joblessness, and police brutality. Fast forward to 1965, when I was a young teenager, I witnessed the Los Angeles Watts riots. All started because 4 police beat up a black man in the streets of LA, and it was caught on TV. Fast forward to 1992, I was working in Los Angeles for what became the Rodney King police trial verdicts, where police beat up Rodney King in the middle of an LA street. It was all caught on video. During the trial, Rodney's plea was, "Why can't we all just get along?" Fast forward to now, and our country is experiencing protest marches and riots throughout the country, and even through the middle of a global pandemic. What is consistent in all of these cases in nearly 60 years of my life is that in each case, people had lost hope. Today, they have lost hope because of several reasons that build on each other. Loss of freedom of movement due to isolating in their homes for 3 months. Loss of hope, loss of jobs, loss of income, where 40 million people have lost jobs in just 3 months. And loss of hope because of the continual systemic killing of unarmed black people now caught on cell phones. We are witnessing a long-term bias in policing of black and brown people while protecting and serving everyone else. But I am encouraged we will get through this, and America will be made better as we aspire to a more perfect union of our nation. As I look back over my 6 decades, I can definitely say things have gotten better. There was a time in this country when interracial marriages were against the law, and black men would have been killed just for looking at a white woman. In this case, Whitney, you would never have been born. I hear how you feel, but witnessing change can only be observed over time. In this case, the time horizon to observe is 400 years of slavery of blacks to the times we live in today. When you have a long perspective and look back, and you can see lots of positive change. I would not be here to witness all the positive changes you will see in your next 60 years, Whitney. But you will have the benchmark of today to look back and tell your children about the kinds of change you witnessed and what our country will have realized. Remember, in change, there's always winners and losers.
Whitney M. Young Jr. dedicated his life to racial integration and African American economic empowerment. He served as a national director of the Urban League and was a close advisor to President Lyndon B. Johnson. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1968. Something not as well known about Whitney is that he served as a national board member of the Boy Scouts of America. The Boy Scouts of America's Whitney M. Young Jr. Service Award was established in 1978 to recognize individuals who have made outstanding contributions to minority and underserved populations, demonstrating the ideals of Scouting. It's entirely fitting that we are presenting this recognition to two individuals who have committed themselves to family, and like Whitney Young Jr., to the betterment of the communities around them. Let me begin by sharing Sho Dozono's brief bio of achievements. Sho Dozono is the former president and CEO of the Azamanu Travel Group of Companies. He is a strong advocate of diversity and equal opportunity and a respected business and civic leader, both in Portland and throughout the state of Oregon, devoting much of his time in service to the community. He has served on many boards and received numerous appointments at the public and private levels, such as the Port of Portland, Japanese American Citizens League, Portland Public Schools, Portland Art Museum, Spirit Mountain Community Fund, Portland Community College, and Portland State University. He was also a U.S. history teacher and head wrestling coach at Grant High School from 1972 to 76. Congratulations, Sho. Sho has asked Matt DeVore, our CPC Executive Director, to present him with his award this evening.
I'd like to digress for a few minutes here. When Matt asked me to join the board, I was eager to join the board, but prior to that, I was head of the United Way of America when we parted ways with Boy Scouts of America for the discrimination against gays in our community. And as a strong advocate for gay rights in this community, I was not necessarily anti-Boy Scouts, but certainly I was not supporting Boy Scouts getting money from United Way. But since the United Boy Scouts changed their policy, inclusiveness and diversity, I decided to join the board and have been very blessed to be able to join this board and advocating for scouting for gays and lesbians and for people of all colors in our community. So thank you very much, Matt, for this opportunity to serve. I was privileged to join Boy Scout when I came from Japan when I was age 10 at Buckman Grade School, Troop 53. I'll never forget my experience of being a Boy Scout, learning how to be an American young man, young boy at age 10, 11, 12. Troop 53 was where I learned how to speak English language. I didn't speak a word of English when I came from Japan at age 10. Boy Scout gave me the confidence to be an all-American youth and learn how to do camping. I could never pass the Morse code, so I never became past second class. And although I'm on the board now at the Boy Scouts of America here, I'm so honored to be receiving this award from Matt and Kayleen. I want to thank all of you for this great honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for your years of committed service, Sho. We're really proud of you. I would now like to share selected achievements for Ben Berry. Serving as a strategic technology leader, Ben Berry is a professional with performance-based leadership and knowledge of diverse private and public sector business and technology systems. He is the Executive Vice President of Information Technology and CIO for the federal government's Bonneville Power Administration. The power generated on BPA's electric grid is sold to public utilities, private utilities, and industry on the grid. His current and prior board of director work includes, but is not limited to, Central City Concern, Electric Power Research Institute, Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum, Boy Scouts of America Cascade Pacific Council, iUrban Team Technology, Oregon State University School of Business, and Portland State University Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Matt and Kaylee. And also thank you, Cascade Pacific Council, Boy Scouts of America, for bestowing this Whitney M. Young Jr. Award on me for service. You know, when I think about people who have received this award, I'm just really honored that my community has seen fit that I would receive this particular award. When I think about service ethic, it's really something that is important to me. If you think about the word ethics, it really stems from the Greek word of ethos. And ethos, of course, is character. And it also is combined with the Latin word of mores, for customs. So when you combine the two together, it really is showing how people have come to terms with how they interact with each other. And so when I look at my own examination of my service ethic and where it came from, it takes me back to when I was 10 years old and a Cub Scout living in Los Angeles, California. They say you remember things way back in your life that are traumatic or are near tragic. This is because our mood, our emotions, also comprise where our mental context is. And there was a particular summer day in scouting that started out wonderful. Our troop had organized to go on a day trip to the beach. And of course, in LA, it was very hot. And especially, I was very excited because I wanted to go to the beach. I hadn't been there in some time. I was a city boy. Once there, I could see my fellow scouts jumping in the water, and I just couldn't wait to catch up with them and get in that ocean water. I remember this day distinctly because, you see, I could not swim. Yes, that's right, I really couldn't swim. But I thought I could get away with just wading through the water, this ocean water now, simultaneously moving my arms along the water as though I were swimming. And then it happened. Well, I walked off an underwater cliff, and I began to sink in this murky water downward, 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet. Finally, my feet hit the ground underwater, and I shot back up to the surface. I got to the surface and had just enough time to yell out, "Help," grasp from air, and I went right back down to the 10-foot level. Well, as I came back up the second time, there were arms stretched out, and my scoutmaster, I could see he was pulling me out of the water. Yes, I was coughing and choking, and I was okay. But when I reached the surface that second time, it really meant that I had a service that was bestowed to me as a service of life. You see, I believe that this was a near tragedy that affected me so much that subconsciously, this is why I had enjoyed helping and serving others throughout my life. People will say, well, I just can't figure out what to serve or who to serve. And yet the key to serving is to want to serve. If you want to serve, the opportunities will come your way all the time. What is invisible will become visible. And yet there are so many things that we can serve. It's just wanting to serve. So serve the organization that is helping the homeless, those afflicted with addiction, and those who are of high risk and are seeking behavior change. Serve our military and veterans to assimilate into our communities once they've ended their tour of duty and they're wanting to have jobs. Serve our institutions of learning and those students wanting to get into college at a time when the cost of educating continues to climb. Serve those who are underrepresented and underestimated in their positions in careers of science, technology, engineering, and math. Serve and inspire our youth to be all they can be and expose them to as many things as possible so they can discover their own passion and their own destiny. You know, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Anybody can be great because everybody can serve." I've always remembered those words throughout my life. And yet the universe generates numerous service opportunities that will frequent us along the way. And of course, we all have just 24 hours in a day. It's how you dice and slice that time that makes all the difference in what you do to serve others. I believe we all show up in life on some divine mission that only we can do. But if we discover that mission, that passion, and we act on it, then we are made better for it. Those around us will benefit. And if we really go all the way up in that passion, then the whole universe can be made more perfect. So, at an early age, the universe stretched out its arms to save me. For without that act of service, I would not have married, I would not have had my 4 kids and my 3 grandkids. For me, it has always been about the payback from the near tragic event that makes me want to serve. It has allowed me to find my voice, to give back, and to embrace the service ethic by combining character and custom. Thank you for the recognition for the Whitney M. Young Jr. Service Award. It means a lot to me. I'm honored, and it's a privilege. Thank you.
Congrats again, Sho and Ben. I'm inspired by you both and honored to serve with you on the CPC board. As we conclude our program this evening, I want to echo the spirit of Ben's closing comments. You are all invited to join us in the big tent that is CPC. We need your ideas and your help to serve our community and ensure that our scouting programs remain strong and welcoming to all youth. If this inspires you like it does me, please consider investing in CPC's vibrant future by visiting the giving page or by picking up your phone and texting WYSA to the number 41444. You can see the website and the number to text on the bottom of the screen. In the BSA and here in our council, we live the mission to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of the Scout, Oath, and Law. Ben and Sho, through their service to Scouting and to their communities, are role models who show us what those choices look like. With the gift tonight, you are supporting the 9,000 youth and volunteers of our council and investing in the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you for joining us tonight for our virtual Whitney M. Young Jr. Service Award event. To wrap up tonight, let's enjoy this highlight reel that showcases the dedication to service exhibited by our local scouting youth and volunteers. Thank you again for taking the time to join us, and have a lovely evening.